Well, welcome to the press conference. We're glad you could attend. As most of you know, the Minnesota State Senate just recently passed the passage of what has eluded the Minnesota Senate for close to 7 years, the passage of the marriage amendment on the Senate floor. Final vote was 38 to 27, and it did enjoy bipartisan support, having one DFLer join Republicans in the passage of the marriage amendment. As some of you know, the marriage amendment is a proposal to give to the people in the 2012 election, allowing them to make a policy direction and giving us advice and direction on how we write a particular area of law, and that's the definition of marriage, to be defined solely as one man and one woman. And then that statement would be provided in our Constitution. I'm proud that my colleagues in the Senate joined me in support of the constitutional amendment that gives Minnesotans this opportunity to define marriage as solely those unions between one man and one woman. There are a variety of perspectives, as we know, in the Senate. We heard a variety of perspectives and issues and sidebar issues that accumulated in debate. That's why I think allowing a small group of politicians in the legislature or even a smaller group of judges to define this issue would be unacceptable, and that the better voice of this institution is the people themselves in the 2012 election. Some people may have asked why we did it so early, and the purpose is to give the public over a year to begin to have a conversation among themselves and advance toward the November election. And we'll stand for questions, or if anyone else here wants to make a comment, they're welcome to do so. Any questions?
The DFLers allege that this is just a wedge issue designed to get Christian conservatives to the polls.
Yeah.
What's your response?
Yeah, you know, I suppose if I was just looking at this purely through a partisan perspective, I might come to that same conclusion. But I don't think it holds water when you look at other states, namely California. In the last presidential election, that too had a marriage amendment being asked for the public to decide, and yet at the very same election result, President Obama was elected from California, and so was the Democrat control of the California Senate and House. They also were returned. So I don't know if anyone can really claim that that's got the partisan strings attached that would lead anyone to come to that conclusion in Minnesota.
Senator,
yes, sir.
Senator Dibble said the reason why the proponents of this measure are avoiding any discussion of the moral aspect of it is that you folks are ashamed. So I guess in my role as an insufferable goat here at the Capitol, I'd like to ask you personally, Senator, do you feel that
the Daily
gay
Goad
marriage
Press.
is morally wrong? Do you personally feel gay marriage is wrong?
In this perspective, I think it's really up to the public to make a direction and advice to the legislature and to the state government. I'm sorry that Senator Dibble thinks that way. These are issues that are challenging a great number of our societal entities. You look at churches who are divided. You have synods and Presbyterian churches that are authorizing gay clergy. You have people in business that are trying to figure out how to handle this issue in their human resource departments. These are all questions that generally would come to the legislature, but right now we rely on the DOMA law, the Defense of Marriage Act, which defines marriage in statute between one man and one woman. However, that's being challenged in the courts. There's close to three cases now in the Minnesota Appeals Court wanting to overturn the DOMA law. Now, as a result of that, one has to ponder a little bit and wonder, could a Minnesota Supreme Court overturn Minnesota statute in the definition of marriage. And if that's a plausible question to say, yeah, it might happen, then I think it's vitally important for the public to have their say on what the definition of marriage is.
Let me try my question a little differently, if I may. Is your motivation for, and it's a lot of work for you as a sponsor to carry this bill, and a controversial bill like this, is your motivation so that the people of Minnesota can decide this contentious issue, or for you personally, is there a moral consideration as well as to why you signed on to this bill?
Well, no, the purpose of this bill is to allow the public to decide.
I'm talking about, though, you carrying the bill. What was your motivation for it? If I may question motivation.
Well, as you know, I've been here a long time. I'm probably the most senior member here in front of you. I've been around this issue. I've followed this issue. I've carried it over years, knowing full well that I didn't have the numbers in the legislature, much less in the Senate, to pass it. It was an issue that was decidedly important in order to make sure that courts do not define marriage. Courts, that's not their job to define or to make law. Their law, or their purpose, is to interpret law and make judgment. The legislature is the one closest to the public in order to make public policy. That's what our job is. But I'm not so sure where the legislature would go on it, and quite honestly, as I've studied it over the years, I really think it has to be a direct reflection of the public. And the most accurate reflection of the public is to give it to the public for a public decision. And that's why I carried it.
Senator, you mentioned the elusiveness of this for 7 years, and I remember talking to you late last year when you reflected on the incident involving then Senator Bachmann when the microphones were shut off. Is there a measure of political payback intertwined in this issue?
Payback? I don't know what we're paying back. I don't know what we're trying to achieve by that. I don't believe in political payback. This is an issue that perhaps started with the Massachusetts Supreme Court triggering an interpretation of the law in their courts. It caused how we handled marriage in relationship to other states. That's what started Bachmann's campaign for it. Bachmann, as you know, was unsuccessful. It was not a pretty trail for her. She did and was abused in the process. She was cornered in bathrooms. She was harassed close to 3 weeks, 24/7. She had to have a police car on the front of her curb outside her house, and then have the ultimate indignity of having someone turn the microphones off on her in the Senate. Now, no public discussion, no senator should be treated like that. Is this political payback? No. This is still hearing the voice of the public saying we want to be involved in this issue, and I think the recent polls of 75% prove it.
Would any of the senators be willing to make the moral argument, perhaps say how you would vote, assuming this does end up on the ballot next year?
Well, I can say that I'll vote for the marriage amendment in the November election.
Why?
Simply because I believe that, lost my voice, simply because I don't believe that marriage should be defined that way, or defined in the way that it's written.
Thank you.
Senator, have you been harassed or threatened at all this session because of this?
I had a couple phone calls at home, and I don't know the intensity of the calls that came into my office. There's a few unfriendly types out there, but nothing as serious to report to a law enforcement agency. The angst of this issue has dissipated quite a bit. Anyone else have any closing comments? Nope? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.